The lights flicker once, twice, and then they are gone. In the sterile, fluorescent-lit corridors of a modern hospital, the sudden plunge into darkness is absolute. The world is reduced to a sudden, profound silence, broken only by the fading beeps of monitors and the distant, muffled sounds of confusion. For a moment, there is nothing. This is the instant a hospital loses its connection to the outside world. The moment it is severed from the grid that is its lifeblood. The familiar hum of machinery, the rhythmic pulse of life support systems, the constant glow of screens displaying vital signs, all of it ceases. In that first second of total blackout, the hospital is no longer a place of healing. It has become an island, isolated and facing a crisis of unimaginable scale. The intricate web of technology that defines 21st century medicine has just been unplugged, and for the souls within its walls, the clock has started ticking. A deep, guttural roar shatters the silence. Deep in the hospital's substructure, the emergency generators have jolted to life. A wave of relief, however fleeting, washes over the staff. Red emergency lights cast long, distorted shadows down the corridors, painting the scene in an eerie, apocalyptic glow. Critical systems begin to reboot. The life-sustaining hum returns to the intensive care unit, monitors flicker back on, and ventilators resume their rhythmic push and pull of air. For a precious few moments, it seems as though disaster has been averted, that the hospital's built-in redundancies have worked as designed. But this is a fragile and temporary reprieve. These generators are not a permanent solution. They are a stopgap, a lifeline with a terrifyingly finite length. They run on diesel fuel, and the tanks that feed them hold only enough for a limited time. Depending on the size of the hospital and the capacity of its reserves, that time can range from a few days to, in some cases, less than 24 hours. Every drop of fuel consumed is a second lost. As the generators churn, the staff know that they are not just burning diesel. They are burning through their most precious resource, time. Nowhere is this race against time more palpable than in the intensive care unit. Here, in the ICU, life is measured in breaths and heartbeats, each one dependent on a machine. Patients on mechanical ventilators, those whose bodies cannot breathe on their own, are tethered to life by a constant flow of electricity. When the main power fails, a small internal battery in each ventilator provides a bridge, perhaps for 30 to 60 minutes. It is a desperate, short-lived buffer. When the emergency generators kick in, the machines continue their work. But the question hangs heavy in the air, unspoken, but felt by every doctor and nurse: for how long? If the fuel runs out, these machines will fall silent. Staff would be forced to resort to manual ventilation, using handheld ambu bags to pump air into a patient's lungs. One nurse, one patient, one bag, squeezing every few seconds for hours on end. It is a physically and emotionally exhausting task, a last-ditch effort that is unsustainable for an entire unit of critical patients. The ICU becomes a crucible where the abstract concept of a power outage is translated into the stark reality of life and death, measured in the dwindling supply of fuel in a tank. In the operating rooms, the crisis is just as immediate. A surgeon, scalpel in hand, is deep within a patient's body when the world goes dark. The powerful overhead lights extinguish, the advanced imaging screens go blank, and the array of electronic surgical tools falls silent. The backup power restores lighting, but not always to full capacity. More critically, many of the specialized instruments, electrocautery devices that stop bleeding, endoscopic cameras that provide the surgeon's eyes, robotic arms that perform with superhuman precision may not be connected to the emergency circuits. Surgeons and their teams are forced to revert to the fundamentals of their craft. They must close incisions with needle and thread under the beam of a headlamp. They may rely on hand crank drills for orthopedic procedures or use basic clamps and sutures where an electric device would have been faster and more precise. A routine, hours-long surgery can become a grueling marathon of improvisation. The risk of infection skyrockets in the compromised environment. The risk of error, under immense pressure and with limited tools, becomes a terrifying reality. Every surgery in progress becomes a desperate race to stabilize the patient and close the wound before the fragile stability provided by the generators can collapse. The blackout's insidious reach extends far beyond the critical care areas. The hospital's very infrastructure begins to fail. Elevators, crucial for transporting patients, staff, and heavy equipment between floors, freeze in place. A patient suffering a heart attack on the 7th floor must now be carried down flights of stairs on a gurney, a slow, jarring, and dangerous journey. Centralized oxygen systems, which pipe breathable air directly to patient rooms, may falter. This forces a reliance on heavy, finite oxygen tanks that must be manually wheeled from room to room. Portable oxygen concentrators, which many patients rely on for mobility and comfort, die as their batteries drain. Intravenous pumps, meticulously calibrated to deliver precise doses of medication, antibiotics, or hydration, stop their programmed delivery. Nurses must revert to manually calculating drip rates, a less precise method prone to human error, consuming valuable time and attention. The very architecture of the hospital, designed for efficiency and technological integration, becomes a labyrinth of obstacles. One of the most silent but swift consequences of a prolonged outage is the failure of refrigeration. A modern hospital is a vast repository of temperature-sensitive medical supplies, blood banks filled with life-saving units of red blood cells, plasma, and platelets. must be kept at a constant, cool temperature. Without it, the entire supply can become unusable within hours. Vaccines, sensitive biological compounds, lose their efficacy if not stored within a narrow temperature range. And for countless patients, the loss of refrigeration is a direct and personal threat. An entire hospital supply of insulin, essential for managing diabetes, can spoil. Chemotherapy drugs, often requiring strict cold chain management, can be rendered inert. Even laboratory samples, crucial for diagnosing illness and guiding treatment, become compromised, making accurate medical decisions impossible. The loss of cooling systems triggers a cascade of failures that undermines the very foundation of diagnostic and therapeutic medicine, leaving doctors and patients without the tools they need to fight disease. In this descending chaos, human ingenuity becomes the last line of defense. The hospital staff, trained for emergencies but rarely one of this magnitude, adapts. Corridors and patient rooms, once bathed in sterile light, are now navigated by the narrow beams of flashlights. Nurses cluster around medication carts, using the dim glow of their personal cell phone screens to read labels and draw correct dosages. With internal communication systems down, runners are dispatched to carry messages between floors. A primitive but necessary return to pre-digital communication. Anything with a battery becomes a precious commodity. A laptop with a full charge might be used to access a downloaded medical text. A portable radio might be the only link to understanding the scope of the outage. Beyond the hospital's walls, the staff becomes a testament to resilience, their professionalism and training shining through the darkness. Yet, this resourcefulness is finite. Batteries die. Physical and emotional exhaustion sets in. The organized, systematic practice of medicine dissolves into a series of desperate, individual efforts to hold back the encroaching failure. Perhaps the most isolating aspect of the blackout is the severance of all communication with the outside world. The landlines are dead. The cell towers, their own backup batteries depleted, go silent. The internet is a ghost. The hospital cannot call for aid, cannot coordinate with emergency services, and cannot transfer patients to other facilities which are likely facing the same dire situation. It is impossible to know if the blackout is local or regional, if it will last for hours or for days. This information vacuum is a unique form of psychological torment for staff and patients alike. Families cannot be updated. Specialists cannot be consulted. Guidance from public health authorities cannot be received. The hospital, a hub of community and connection, is now utterly alone, a self-contained disaster zone. The staff must make life or death decisions with no external support and no knowledge of when or if help will arrive. This profound isolation amplifies the tension and the urgency, turning a logistical crisis into an existential one. This scenario is not a work of fiction. It is a composite of real events, a warning written in the history of recent disasters. During the 2003 Northeast blackout, several hospitals in New York City and beyond were pushed to their limits. Some saw their generators fail, forcing harrowing evacuations of critical patients, including premature infants from neonatal ICUs. Staff worked by flashlight for extended periods, manually ventilating patients for hours on end. More recently, the 2021 Texas winter storm and power crisis revealed the fragility of hospital infrastructure on a massive scale. Hospitals across the state lost water pressure, a secondary effect of the power failure, making it impossible to produce steam for heat or to sterilize equipment. Some facilities were forced to transport water in buckets to